Hi, this is John from SuperSteer, and today we want to do an installation on a heavy-duty tie rod end for the GM 99 and up pickups, 1/2 and 3/4 tons. And here's the heavy-duty tie rod that we're going to be installing versus the factory one. The factory one's a 1/2 an inch in diameter. Ours are 1 inch in diameter. They have heavier joints on each end, much stronger piece. If you'll notice on this original tie rod, your toe-in adjustment is right in the middle of the tie rod. Now it's been moved to the inboard, and you can see the flat on the rod there, and that's where you'll make your toe-in adjustment at. Now it's moved the attachment point from the center of the rod out here, so it gives it more strength. Now we will have to reset the alignment naturally once we change these tie rods, but before we start, to get us close, we're going to go ahead and take a measurement on the old tie rod first. So I'm going to measure from the center of the grease fitting to the edge of that ball socket, and we've got 14 3/4 inches. So we'll start by loosening our outer tie rod nut. Okay, so now that we have the nut loose, I'm going to leave the nut started on here so it won't fall when I break the taper loose. I'm going to go ahead and hit carefully on the side of the spindle. There you can see how that taper broke loose. Okay, the next step is to unthread the inner ball socket from the center link. Okay, now that we have that loose from the center link, I'm going to go ahead and remove the nut on the tie rod end. Okay, now that we have the old tie rod out, let's recheck our measurement. From the center of the grease fitting to the end of the ball socket is 15 inches. And the reason that's changed is now that this tie rod is sitting straight, it doesn't have that angle to it anymore. So let's go ahead and adjust our new one to match. And it's on 15 inches. So when we go ahead and install it, we should come out pretty close to the 14 3/4. We're ready to install our new tie rod. We've got our adjustment preset here to get us close. I'm going to go ahead and put a little dab of blue Loctite on these threads before we install it. Our next step is to go ahead and thread our new tie rod in onto the center link. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and tighten this ball socket up. We want to get a pretty good pull on this. You're going to end up about 120 foot-pounds. And next we'll hook up our outer tie rod in. Make sure our boot is positioned properly. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten up this outer nut. Now this is a self-locking nut, so if the stud tries to spin on you, there is a flat on the end of it where you can put a wrench on here. It's a 5/16 or 8 millimeter, and you can keep that stud from spinning as you tighten up the tie rod nut. Okay, so now that we have things in place, let's recheck our measurement. And we're sitting pretty close to 14 3/4. Okay, so let's go ahead and tighten up our jam nut so we can make it to the alignment shop safely. Okay, to finish off, we want to go ahead and grease the outer tie rod end and the inner ball socket. Okay, we can see the boot expanding there. So now that we've got that side done, we're going to go ahead and go to the driver's side. You always want to change these tie rods in pairs because they are much heavier part than the original. Okay, now that we have both tie rod ends installed, we're ready for our wheel alignment. And once again, this is John at SuperSteer. Thank you for your time.